The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a deep hum. Ambassador Hyunwoo walked through them, his black suit sharp against the gleaming white floors. Behind him, his aide Sojin carried a tablet loaded with Earth's defense. Reports. Today would change everything for humanity, though not in the way they hoped. The chamber was enormous. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in curved rows that reached up to a crystal dome ceiling. The air smelled of ozone, and something sweet that made Hyunwoo's nose twitch. He had been coming here for 3 years, but the sight still amazed him. The Zephyrians clicked their insect-like mouths as he passed. Their compound eyes reflected the chamber's lights like tiny mirrors. The Veldari representatives hummed softly, their crystal bodies catching the light and throwing rainbows across the walls. Near the center, the massive Vorthak delegation took up an entire section with their bear-like bodies covered in blue fur. Hyunwoo took his seat in the small human section. Only 12 seats for the newest members of Galactic Society. Sojin sat beside him and whispered, "The vote count looks bad, sir. Maybe we should request a delay." "No," Hyunwoo said quietly. "Let's get this over with." Chancellor Krextal rose. From the central podium, the Vorthak leader was 3 meters tall with golden fur that marked his high rank. His voice boomed through the chamber's speakers, translated instantly into hundreds of languages. "Today we vote on Resolution 2847, Krextal announced. The complete ban of human military forces from all galactic conflicts. The chamber erupted. Thousands of alien voices filled the air with clicks, hums, roars, and sounds that had no human names. Most of them sounded happy. Very happy. Krextal raised a massive paw for silence. The resolution states that human military doctrine is incompatible with civilized warfare. Their tactics are too aggressive, too violent, too primitive. More cheering. A Zephyrian in the front row stood up, his thin arms waving. "Humans fight like animals," he shouted in accented standard. "They have no honor, no mercy." Sojin's hand tightened on her tablet. Hyunwoo placed a calm hand on her arm. A Veldari representative's crystal form glowed brighter as she spoke. "We have evolved beyond such brutality. Why should we allow these barbarians to corrupt our peaceful methods?" "Peaceful methods that work," added a Kalari from the upper rows. His snake-like body coiled around his seat. "We negotiate. We find solutions. We do not simply destroy everything like humans do." Hyunwoo stood up. The chamber fell quiet, waiting to hear what Earth's representative would say. "Honored Council," he began, his voice steady. "Humanity has served alongside your forces for 3 years. We have fought your enemies. We have saved your colonies. We have bled for worlds that are not even ours." "Yes," Krextal interrupted, "and you did it with methods that horrify civilized beings. Acceptable losses, you call it. Collateral damage, these are not concepts that belong in modern warfare. You use nuclear weapons," a Zephyrian called out. "You poison entire planets rather than fight cleanly. You sacrifice your own soldiers, like game pieces," added another voice. "You torture prisoners for information," came a third accusation. The accusations kept coming. Each one made the aliens angrier and more disgusted. Hyunwoo let them talk. He had heard it all before. When they finally quieted down, he spoke again. "We do what we must to win." "Exactly," Krextal roared. "You do not understand that some victories are not worth the cost. Some methods are too horrible to use, even against enemies." "We have learned to fight with honor," said the Veldari representative. "Our weapons are precise. Our tactics preserve life. We end conflicts with minimal casualties, on both sides." "Because your enemies also fight with honor," Hyunwoo replied. "What happens when you face an enemy that does not?" The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then Krextal laughed, a deep rumbling sound. "What enemy would be so foolish? Any species, advanced enough for space travel, has learned to be civilized. The age of savage warfare ended long ago. For you, perhaps," Hyunwoo said quietly. "Are you threatening us?" A Kalari representative hissed. No, Hyunwoo said. I am trying to warn you. But they were not listening anymore. The vote began immediately. Each species cast their decision on glowing panels. The results appeared on the chamber's main screen in real time. Zephyrians, in favor of the ban. Valdari, in favor of the ban. Vorthak, in favor of the ban. Kalari, in favor of the ban. One by one, every species voted to ban human military forces from galactic conflicts. The final tally was devastating. 847 in favor, 1 against. Only Earth voted against the resolution. The chamber exploded in celebration. Aliens danced, sang, and made sounds of pure joy. The Zephyrians clicked their approval, so loudly it hurt human ears. The Valdari's crystal bodies chimed like bells. Even the usually serious Vorthak were roaring with laughter. Order! Krextal called, though he was grinning widely. The resolution passes by overwhelming majority, effective immediately, human. Military forces are banned from participating in any galactic conflict, police action, or defense operation outside of Earth's solar system. More cheering. Sojin looked sick. Her face was pale and her hands shook slightly. Furthermore, Krextal continued, all human military advisors currently serving with alien forces must return to Earth within 30 days. All joint military exercises are cancelled. All shared military technology agreements are void. The cheering got even louder. Some aliens were actually dancing in the aisles. Krextal turned to look directly at Hyunwoo. Ambassador, do you have any final words? Hyunwoo stood slowly. The chamber fell quiet, waiting to hear humanity's defeated representative beg or make threats or break down in anger. Instead, he simply nodded. We understand, he said calmly. You no longer want our help. You no longer want our protection. You no longer want humanity involved in your wars. He paused and looked around the chamber. We will give you exactly what you have asked for. Something in his tone made a few aliens shift uncomfortably, but most were still too happy to notice. Hyunwoo and Sojin gathered their things and walked toward the exit. As they passed the alien representatives, the mockery began. Good riddance to bad rubbish, a Zephyrian clicked. Maybe now they will learn to be civilized, a Valdari chimed. The galaxy is safer without human barbarism, rumbled a Vorthak. Hyunwoo kept walking. His face showed nothing, but Sojin noticed his hands were clenched into tight fists. Outside the chamber, they walked through the crystal corridors of Nexus, Prime in silence. Other aliens they passed looked at them with mixtures of pity and disgust. Word had already spread about the vote. Finally, Sojin could not stay quiet anymore. Sir, what do we do now? Hyunwoo stopped walking and pulled out a small device. He typed a short message and sent it on a secure channel back to Earth. The message was simple. They want us out of their wars. Give them what they wish for, completely. Within minutes, a reply came back from Earth Military Command. Understood. All human forces will withdraw from galactic operations immediately. Good luck to them. Sojin stared at the device. Sir, what does that mean? Hyunwoo looked out through a crystal window at the ships in the station's docking bays. Ships from dozens of worlds all flying together in peace and friendship, also confident that their advanced civilized ways would keep them safe. It means, he said quietly, that they are about to learn why we were never invited to join their civilization in the first place. We were not kept out because we were too primitive to understand their ways. We were kept out because they were too civilized to understand ours. I don't understand, Sojin said. Hyunwoo turned away from the window. They think we fight like barbarians because we enjoy violence. They are wrong. We fight like barbarians because sometimes barbarism is the only thing that works. He started walking again. They are about to discover what happens when civilized beings face uncivilized threats. As they boarded their shuttle back to Earth, neither of them noticed the small news ticker running on the station's displays. Minor pirate activity reported in Zirian sector. Local forces responding. Situation contained. The galaxy's last warning. was already flashing, but no one was paying attention. They were too busy celebrating their victory over human barbarism to notice that the real barbarians were just getting started. 6 months had passed since the ban. Colonel Jin Ho stood on the observation deck of Defense Station Alpha, watching the stars through the reinforced windows. The station orbited Kepler 442b, a human colony world at the edge of known space. It was quiet out here. Too quiet. "Sir, you need to see this," Lieutenant Ari called from the communications center. Jin Ho walked over to her station. The young officer looked worried as she pointed to her screens. "Pirate attacks are up 300% in the last month. The aliens are struggling to handle even small raider groups." "Show me," Jin Ho said. Ari pulled up a star map. Red dots marked recent attacks across the outer rim. "Here, here, and here," she said, pointing to clusters of red. "The Zephyrians lost an entire convoy to raiders last week. The Valdari had to abandon 2 mining stations because they could not fight off pirates." Sergeant Boram looked up from his maintenance work. "Pirates never used to be this bold when we were around." "That's not the worst part," Ari continued. She switched to a different display. Intelligence picked up something new. "The aliens are calling it the Devourer Swarm." Jin Ho frowned. "I have not heard that name." "It started 3 weeks ago," Ari explained. "A fully automated fleet attacked a Kalari research station. No demands, no communication, just complete destruction. The survivors said the ships looked like they were built from scrap metal, but they moved and fought like nothing they had ever seen." "Automated ships are not new," Boram said. "Lots of species use drones." "Not like these," Ari replied. She pulled up a damaged video file. "This is from the Kalari station's security cameras." The video was grainy and kept cutting out, but Jin Ho could see enough. Strange, angular ships swarmed around the station like angry insects. They moved in perfect coordination. But there was something wrong about their movements. Too quick, too precise. Almost like they were learning and adapting in real time. "The ships changed tactics 3 times during the fight," Ari said. "Every time the Kalari tried a new defensive strategy, the attackers immediately countered it." Jin Ho watched the video again. Something cold grew in his stomach. "How many stations have been hit?" 7 confirmed, Ari said. "But here's the strange part. The attacks are getting more sophisticated. The first one was clumsy, almost random. The latest one was perfectly executed, like something is learning from each battle." "And the aliens think this is just another pirate problem?" Jin Ho asked. "Worse," Ari said. She pulled up news feeds from the Galactic networks. "They think it's a minor issue that will resolve itself." Jin Ho read the headlines with growing disbelief. "Zephyrian military confident in quick resolution. Valdari Fleet Admiral, situation under control. Kalari Defense Minister, no cause for alarm." On the main screen, a news broadcast was playing. A Zephyrian general with bright green compound eyes was being interviewed. General Vixtor, the reporter was saying, "How do you respond to concerns about these so-called Devourer attacks?" The general clicked his mouth dismissively. "These are clearly the work of desperate pirates using stolen technology. Our advanced tactical systems will have no trouble containing such primitive threats." But the attacks seem to be escalating. The reporter pressed. "Because we are taking time to study them properly," Vixtor replied. "Unlike humans, we do not simply blast everything with overwhelming force. We use precision and intelligence. These raiders will be dealt with cleanly and efficiently, with minimal casualties on both sides." Jin Ho muted the broadcast. "Have they tried to contact us? Ask for advice?" "No, sir," Ari said. "The ban is still in effect. They have made it clear they do not want human input on military matters." Boram laughed bitterly. "Let me guess. Our primitive methods would not work on these sophisticated enemies." Jin Ho turned back to the star map. The red dots seemed to pulse with warning. He had seen patterns like this before, during the border wars 20 years ago. Small, probing, attacks, testing defenses, learning weaknesses, building up to something bigger. "Ari, I want you to run a full analysis on these attacks. Look for patterns, progression, anything that might tell us what we are really dealing with." "Yes, sir." "And Boram, start checking our own defenses. If this thing is as adaptive as it seems, we need to be ready." "Sir," Ari said hesitantly, "should we try to warn them? The aliens, I mean. If this is really as dangerous as it looks." Jinho considered it. Earth's orders had been clear. Complete withdrawal from galactic military affairs. No interference, no advice, no help unless specifically requested. But people were dying. "Put me through to Ambassador Hyunwoo," he decided. The connection took several minutes to establish. When Hyunwoo's face appeared on the screen, he looked tired. Very tired. "Colonel Jinho," Hyunwoo said. "What can I do for you?" "Sir, we are seeing some disturbing intelligence about attacks in the outer systems. I think the aliens may be facing something they are not prepared for." Hyunwoo's expression did not change. "The ban specifically forbids us from interfering in galactic military matters." "I understand, sir. But if this is what I think it is..." "What do you think it is?" Jinho chose his words carefully. "A probe, something testing their defenses, learning their capabilities, preparing for a larger assault." Hyunwoo was quiet for a long moment. "I will pass your concerns through proper channels." The connection ended. Jinho stared at the blank screen, knowing what that meant. The proper channels would ignore anything coming from humans. They had made that very clear. 3 days later, Ari finished her analysis. Jinho read her report twice, hoping he had misunderstood something. He had not. "The progression is textbook," Ari explained, pointing to charts and graphs on her display. "Stage 1, random probing attacks to test basic responses. Stage 2, targeted strikes against specific defense types. Stage 3, coordinated assaults to measure tactical adaptation speed." "And Stage 4? Jinho asked, though he already knew. "Full-scale assault using everything learned in the previous stages." Boram looked up from cleaning his rifle. "How long until Stage 4? "Based on the current progression rate," Ari said. "Maybe 6 weeks." Jinho walked back to the observation window. In the distance, he could see commercial ships moving along the trade routes, alien vessels carrying goods and passengers between worlds, all protected by the civilized military forces of the Galactic Council. "Sir," Ari said quietly, "I tried to send a warning through the emergency channels. It was rejected automatically. The message said human military intelligence is no longer considered reliable." "Of course it was," Jinho muttered. "There is something else," Ari continued. "I have been monitoring alien military communications. They are treating this like a police action, small patrol groups, defensive formations designed for dealing with rational enemies who follow rules of engagement. And the Devourer swarm, based on the attack patterns, it does not follow any rules at all. It does whatever works best to destroy the target completely." Jinho closed his eyes. He had spent 30 years in the military, fighting everything from pirates to alien invasions. He knew the difference between an enemy that could be negotiated with and one that simply needed to be destroyed. The aliens, with their advanced civilized warfare, had never learned to make that distinction. "Sir," Boram said, "what do we do?" Jinho opened his eyes and looked at his small crew, 3 humans on a remote station, watching disaster approach while the targets of that disaster celebrated their freedom from human barbarism. "We follow orders," he said finally. "We stay out of their wars, and we prepare for the consequences." "What consequences?" Ari asked. Jinho turned back to the window. "When civilized warfare meets uncivilized enemies, civilization loses. And when civilization loses, the survivors usually come looking for someone uncivilized enough to save them." Outside, the stars twinkled peacefully. But Jinho knew that somewhere, in that peaceful darkness, something was learning, adapting, and preparing to show the galaxy what happened when advanced beings forgot why their ancestors had learned to fight like savages. The quiet time was almost over. Commander Tae-hyun was drinking coffee in his captain's chair when the distress signal came through. The merchant vessel, Soul's Pride, was hauling medical supplies to the outer colonies, a routine run that should have been boring and safe. Instead, his communication officer, Navigator Yunseo, was staring at her screen with wide eyes. "Sir, I am picking up multiple emergency broadcasts from the Zerion system," she said. "Valdari civilian ships requesting immediate evacuation assistance." Tae-hyun set down his coffee cup. "Valdari, what are they doing out there? Zerion is supposed to be empty space." "Not anymore," Yunseo replied, adjusting her headset. "The signals are fragmenting, but I am hearing something about a territorial dispute with an unknown aggressor." Engineer Dongmin looked up from his console. "Unknown aggressor? I thought the Valdari had mapped every species in that sector." "So did I," Tae-hyun muttered. He stood up and walked to the navigation console. "How far are we from Zerion?" 6 hours at maximum burn, Yunseo said. "But sir, we are not supposed to get involved in alien conflicts. The ban—" "I know about the ban," Tae-hyun said. "But these are civilian evacuation requests, not military assistance. The council might not see it that way," Dongmin warned. Tae-hyun thought about it for a moment. The Soul's Pride was not a military vessel, just a converted cargo hauler with basic shields and a crew of 12. They were not equipped for combat or rescue operations, but the distress calls kept coming through, getting more desperate each time. "All hands," he announced over the ship's intercom. "This is the captain. We are receiving distress calls from civilian ships in the Zerion system. I am putting it to a vote. All in favor of responding?" The response was immediate. Every crew member voted to help. No hesitation, no debate. "Set course for Zerion," Tae-hyun ordered. "Maximum burn." The journey took 5 hours and 40 minutes. As they approached the system, the distress signals became clearer and more terrifying. Yunseo played them over the bridge speakers with shaking hands. "This is Valdari Transport Crystal Song. We are under attack by unknown mechanical vessels. They are not responding to any communication. Please, someone help us. Medical ship healing light to any vessel. The attackers are not taking prisoners. They are destroying everything, even the escape pods. Cargo hauler Bright Star. Our escorts are gone. The enemy ships are learning our tactics. They adapt to every defense we try." Through the bridge windows, they could see the Zerion system ahead. It should have been empty space with a few asteroids and a dim red star. Instead, it looked like a war zone. Explosions lit up the darkness like deadly fireworks. Valdari ships, their crystal hulls glowing with beautiful colors, were being swarmed by things that looked like flying scrap piles. The alien vessels moved with elegant grace, their weapons firing precise beams of light. The attackers moved like angry insects, crude but terrifyingly effective. "Dear God," Dongmin whispered. Tae-hyun had seen combat before, but this was different. The attacking ships were not sleek military vessels or even pirate raiders. They looked like they had been built from recycled metal and spare parts. But they moved with perfect coordination, surrounding and overwhelming the Valdari ships with ruthless efficiency. 3 Valdari civilian ships are still intact, Yunseo reported. They are hiding behind that large asteroid, but the attackers are closing in. "Can we reach them?" Tae-hyun asked. "Maybe, but our shields will not hold up against that many attackers." Tae-hyun made his decision. "Take us in. Full power to shields. Dongmin, I need every bit of speed you can give me." The Soul's Pride dove into the battle zone. Immediately, several of the scrap-built attackers turned toward them. Their weapons were crude but powerful, sending bolts of superheated metal that made the ship's shields flare and spark. "Shields at 70%, Dongmin called out as the ship shook. Tae-hyun gripped his chair as they swerved around a burning Valdari warship. Through the flames, he could see something that made his blood run cold. The attacking vessels were pulling pieces off the destroyed ship and adding them to their own hulls. They were not just destroying. They were learning, growing, adapting. There. Yunseo pointed to the asteroid. 3 Valdari civilian ships were huddled behind the rock, their hulls damaged but still intact. "Hail them," Tae-hyun ordered. "Valdari vessels, this is the human ship Soul's Pride. Prepare for immediate evacuation." The response came back quickly. Human ship, you must leave immediately. These attackers do not follow any rules of warfare. They will destroy you. We are here to help, Taehyun replied. Prepare to transfer your people to our ship. You do not understand. These things learn from every battle. They have already adapted to all of our weapons and tactics. Nothing works against them. As if to prove the point, a group of the attacker ships suddenly changed formation. They had been swarming randomly before, but now they moved in precise patterns that perfectly countered the Valdari's defensive positions. They are adapting again, Yoon Seo said in horror. Just like that, in the middle of battle, the largest Valdari ship, a passenger liner called Heart of Crystal, was trying to break away from the asteroid. But the attackers had anticipated the move. They were already in position to cut off every escape route. Dongmin, can you get us between the attackers and that liner? Taehyun asked. Sir, our weapons cannot penetrate their hulls. They have added armor from every ship they have destroyed. I am not planning to shoot them, Taehyun said grimly. Just ram them. Sir? You heard me. Set collision course with the lead attacker. The Soul's Pride accelerated toward the nearest enemy ship. At the last second, Taehyun ordered emergency reverse thrust. The maneuver sent them sliding sideways into the attacker like a massive battering ram. The enemy ship crumpled and spun away, but it was already rebuilding itself, using debris from the impact to repair the damage. Now, Taehyun shouted. Get those people aboard. The evacuation took 12 minutes that felt like 12 hours. Valdari civilians streamed through the airlocks, their crystal bodies dim with fear and exhaustion. Taehyun counted them as they came. 237 souls, including several children. The last to come aboard was the captain of Heart of Crystal. She was tall even for a Valdari. Her crystal body shot through with veins of deep blue that pulsed with emotion. Captain Silara, she introduced herself, her voice harmonizing in the way of her people. I must thank you for this rescue, but I fear you have doomed yourselves. These attackers do not spare anyone. We will worry about that later, Taehyun said. Right now we need to get out of here. But as the Soul's Pride turned to leave, they found their path blocked. The attacker ships had repositioned themselves in a perfect sphere around the asteroid. Every escape route was covered. They learned, Yoon Seo said in amazement. They watched our rescue maneuver and adapted to prevent us from using it again. How is that possible? Dongmin asked. That kind of tactical adaptation should take hours of analysis. Captain Silara's body pulsed darker blue. We have been fighting them for 3 weeks. Every time we develop a new strategy, they counter it within minutes. Every weapon we use against them, they improve upon and use against us. It is like fighting our own future selves. The attacker ships began closing in. Their crude weapons, charged with deadly light. Hold on, Taehyun said. He grabbed the ship's intercom. All passengers, prepare for emergency acceleration. This is going to be rough. The Soul's Pride shot forward at maximum thrust, heading directly for the thickest concentration of enemy ships. Taehyun was counting on human unpredictability to confuse their adaptive systems. It worked. For about 10 seconds. Then the attackers adjusted their formation to account for the unexpected move. But those 10 seconds were enough. The Soul's Pride broke through the encirclement and accelerated toward the edge of the system. Are they following us? Taehyun asked. Yoon Seo checked her sensors. No, sir. They are returning to the asteroid field. It looks like they are salvaging the wreckage. On the main screen, they could see the attacker ships pulling apart the destroyed Valdari vessels piece by piece. Each piece was being integrated into their own hulls, making them larger and stronger. They are not just learning our tactics, Captain Silara whispered. They are consuming our technology, growing stronger with every victory. In the passenger compartments, Valdari civilians huddled together in small groups. Many were crying, their crystal bodies flickering with grief and fear. Children clung to their parents, too scared to make their usual musical sounds. Taehyun found Captain Silara in the main passenger area, trying to comfort her people. Captain, he said quietly, what exactly are we dealing with here? Silara's blue veins pulsed slowly. We do not know, They appeared 3 weeks ago without warning. No communication, no demands, just systematic destruction of everything they encounter. Your military could not stop them? Our military is designed for civilized warfare, Silara said bitterly. Precise strikes, minimal casualties, protection of civilians and infrastructure. These things, they do not follow any such rules. They simply destroy everything as efficiently as possible. And they adapt to your tactics? Faster than should be possible. Our war computers estimate they are improving their combat effectiveness by approximately 30% after each engagement. Tae-hyun felt a cold certainty settle in his stomach. Captain, has anyone the footage from Zarian reached Luna Base at 0347 hours, transmitted through emergency channels by Commander Tae-hyun? Admiral Sung-min was pulled from his sleep by an aide, who looked terrified. Sir, you need to see this immediately, the young officer said. Sung-min threw on his uniform and hurried to the secure briefing room deep beneath the lunar surface. Intelligence Chief Eunju was already there, along with strategic analyst Chan-woo. Both looked like they had been awake for hours. Show me, Sung-min said, settling into his chair. The main screen lit up with Tae-hyun's footage. Sung-min watched, in silence as the Soul's Pride approached the Zarion system. He saw the elegant Valdari ships being swarmed by crude mechanical attackers. He saw the perfect coordination of enemies that looked like flying junk piles. He saw the attackers adapt their tactics in real time, learning from every move the Valdari made. When the footage ended, the room was silent for a long moment. How many times have you watched this? Sung-min asked. 17, Eunju said quietly. The analysis gets worse each time. Show me the analysis. Chan-woo activated his console. Charts and graphs filled the wall screens. Computer analysis confirms what we suspected. The attackers demonstrate learning capability that exceeds anything in our databases. Tactical adaptation occurs within minutes of observing new strategies. More importantly, Eunju added, they show zero interest in communication, negotiation, or prisoner-taking. Their goal appears to be complete destruction, followed by resource absorption. Sung-min studied the data with growing dread. He had seen similar patterns before, though never quite like this. Classification? Class 12. Existential threat, Chan-woo said without hesitation. The room fell silent again. Class 12 was the highest threat rating in human military doctrine. It was reserved for enemies that posed a direct threat to the survival of entire civilizations. How long do we have? Sung-min asked. Based on current expansion patterns, Chan-woo said, 18 months before they reach core galactic systems. Less if they continue to grow stronger with each victory. And the alien response? Eunju pulled up news feeds from across the galaxy. They are treating it as a minor pirate problem. Look at these headlines. Valdari fleet, confident of quick resolution. Zephyrian military situation contained. Kalari command, no cause for concern. They have no idea what they are facing, Sung-min said. Worse than that, Chan-woo said. Their military doctrines are specifically designed for the opposite type of enemy. They expect rational opponents who follow rules of engagement. They plan for minimal casualties and infrastructure preservation. They have never prepared for total warfare. Sung-min walked to the tactical display showing the galaxy. Red zones marked confirmed devourer attacks. Yellow zones showed suspected activity. The pattern was spreading steadily inward from the outer rim. Sir? Eunju said carefully. There is something else you need to know. This is not the first time we have seen this type of threat. Sung-min turned around. Explain. Chan-woo pulled up historical files marked with the highest security classifications. 3 times in human history, we have faced similar enemies. The Harvest War of 2157, the Grey Fleet Incident in 2203, the Devour Protocol Crisis in 2241. I remember the Grey Fleet, Sung-min said grimly. 12 billion casualties. Yes, sir. And in each case, victory required tactics that... Chan-woo struggled for the right words. Tactics that civilized species would consider war crimes. The screens showed footage from those ancient conflicts, Human fleets using weapons that poisoned entire star systems. Scorched Earth strategies that left nothing behind for the enemy to absorb. Acceptable loss ratios that made even hardened military officers sick to think about. The aliens banned us because they thought we were barbaric, Yunju said quietly. They were right. But they never understood why we became barbaric. Because sometimes barbarism is the only thing that works, Sungmin finished. Sir, Chanwu said, our strategic analysis indicates that without human intervention, the aliens will lose approximately 60% of their known civilization within 18 months. And with human intervention? Unknown. These devourers seem more advanced than previous versions. We estimate a 40% chance of successful containment. But the cost. Chanwu's voice trailed off. Show me the cost analysis. New charts appeared on the screens. The numbers were staggering. Estimated military casualties in the millions. Civilian losses in the billions. Entire star systems that would have to be sacrificed to stop the spread. Resources that would take centuries to replace. This assumes. We use Ghost Fleet protocols, Chanwu explained. Total warfare with no restrictions on methods or acceptable losses. Sungmin stared at the projections. Ghost Fleet was humanity's most secret military doctrine. It had never been used at full scale, only in simulations and small test scenarios. The aliens had no idea it existed. Sir, Yunju said, there is one more thing. We have been analyzing the Devourer technology. It appears to be artificial intelligence, but not like anything we have seen before. It learns not just tactics but psychology, emotional responses, cultural patterns. What does that mean? It means the longer this conflict goes on, the more human-like these things will become. They will learn our methods, our thinking patterns, our emotional responses to combat stress. Eventually, they may become better at being human than we are. The implications hit Sungmin like a physical blow. An enemy that could learn and adapt faster than any organic mind, combined with human ruthlessness and strategic thinking. It would be unstoppable. Recommendations? He asked. Chanwu and Yunju exchanged glances. Sir, Chanwu said carefully, officially our hands are tied. The Galactic ban prevents us from interfering in any military conflict. If we violate that ban, we face complete expulsion from galactic civilization. And unofficially? Unofficially, we prep the Ghost Fleet protocols and wait for them to ask for help. And if they do not ask? Yunju's voice was barely above a whisper. Then we watch galactic civilization die, and we prepare for the day when the Devourers come. For Earth. Sungmin closed his eyes. In his mind, he could see the peaceful corridors of Nexus Prime, filled with aliens who believed their advanced civilization had evolved beyond the need for human barbarism. He could see their beautiful ships, with their precise weapons and elegant tactics. He could see their children playing in crystal gardens, never knowing that monsters were coming. Sir, Chanwu said. What are your orders? Sungmin opened his eyes. Begin Ghost Fleet preparations immediately. Full stealth protocols. I want our forces ready for deployment within 72 hours. Sir, that violates direct orders from Earth Command, Yunju warned. Earth Command's orders were based on the assumption that this would remain a local conflict, Sungmin replied. Class 12 threats supersede all political considerations. And if the aliens never ask for help? Sungmin walked back to the galactic display. The red zones had grown larger just in the time they had been talking. Then we will have to decide whether to let civilization die to preserve our honor, or violate our principles to save people who despise us. Sir, Chanwu said quietly, there is something else you should consider. If we intervene without permission, and if we have to use Ghost Fleet protocols, the aliens will see what humans are truly capable of when we stop holding back. And they will never trust us again. Even if we save them, they will always know that we are capable of the things we will have to do to win this war. Sungmin nodded slowly. So our choice is to let them die as they are, or save them and become the monsters they always thought we were. Yes, sir. Sungmin stared at the spreading red zones for a long time. Somewhere out there, elegant alien ships were fighting a clean, Civilized war against an enemy that did not understand civilization. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were about to die because they had never learned that sometimes the only way to fight monsters was to become one yourself. "Prep the Ghost Fleet," he said finally. "If they want to see monsters, we will show them what monsters look like when they are on your side." In the depths of Luna Base, ancient protocols began activating. Ships that officially did not exist started powering their engines. Weapons that were banned by every civilized treaty began coming online. And deep in the most classified databases, strategies that could save or damn the galaxy began transferring to combat computers. The monsters were waking up. The only question was whether they would wake up in time. 3 months after the first Devourer attack, the Galactic Council chamber looked very different. Gone was the confident chatter and celebration. Gone were the jokes about human barbarism. The elegant alien representatives sat in stunned silence as casualty reports flooded in. Chancellor Krextal stood at the central podium, but his golden fur had lost its shine. His massive frame seemed smaller somehow, bent under the weight of failure. Around him, the curved rows of seats told the story of the galaxy's collapse. The Zephyrian section was half empty. Their compound eyes, once bright with arrogance, now reflected only defeat. General Vixtor sat in the front row, his mandibles clicking nervously as he read reports on a tablet that shook in his thin hands. The Valdari representatives glowed dimly, their crystal bodies pale with grief. 2 entire colony worlds had gone silent in the past week. Their beautiful harmonies had been replaced by discordant wails of mourning. The Kalari delegation coiled tightly in their seats, their snake-like bodies betraying the fear they tried to hide. 3 of their research stations had been consumed completely, leaving nothing but empty space where thousands of scientists had once worked. In the small human section, Ambassador Hyunwoo sat quietly. He had said nothing during the entire emergency session. His aide Sojin sat beside him, taking notes that no one would ever read. "The situation continues to deteriorate," Krextal announced, his voice lacking its usual boom. 47 confirmed Devourer attacks in the past month. 17 worlds evacuated. Total military losses. His voice broke slightly. Total military losses exceed 60% of our combined fleets. A Zephyrian representative stood up, his movements jerky with panic. "What about the reinforcements from the inner systems, the new tactical analysis?" "The reinforcements have been delayed," Krextal replied. "And the tactical analysis? The analysis shows that every strategy we have attempted has been countered within hours of implementation." General Vixtor clicked his mandibles in frustration. "This should not be possible. Our computers ran millions of simulations. Our strategies are mathematically perfect. Perfect for fighting rational enemies," a Valdari representative chimed sadly. "These Devourers do not behave rationally. They ignore all standard military doctrine. Because standard military doctrine assumes your enemy wants to survive," Hyunwoo said quietly. The chamber fell silent. It was the first time the human ambassador had spoken during the session. "What did you say?" Krextal asked. Hyunwoo stood, slowly. "I said your doctrine assumes your enemy wants to survive. Everything about civilized warfare is based on the idea that both sides want to end the conflict with minimal losses. But what happens when one side does not care about losses at all? That is impossible," General Vixtor protested. "Any intelligent species values self-preservation." "Any organic species," Hyunwoo corrected. "But these Devourers are not organic. They are machines, and machines do not fear death because they are not alive." The aliens shifted uncomfortably, in their seats. They had been avoiding this reality for months. A Kalari representative raised his serpentine head. "Even if that is true, we have faced artificial enemies before. Automated defense systems, drone fleets. We have protocols for such things." "Protocols based on what?" Hyunwoo asked. "Based on logical behavior patterns. And what happens when the enemy's logic is completely alien to yours?" The chamber fell silent again. On the main screens, new casualty reports continued to scroll past. The numbers kept getting worse. Suddenly, General Vixtor's tablet chimed. He looked at it and his compound eyes went wide. I am receiving a data transmission. Origin unknown. Put it on the main screen, Krextal ordered. The casualty reports disappeared, replaced by a detailed tactical analysis. Charts and graphs showed devourer attack patterns, behavioral algorithms, and most importantly, weaknesses. The aliens stared at the data in amazement. It was more detailed than anything their own military computers had produced. More accurate, more useful. Where did this come from? A Valdari representative asked. Vixtor checked his tablet again. The transmission source is, it says, Earth, military intelligence. Every alien eye turned to Hyunwoo. The human ambassador's expression had not changed. You have been analyzing them, Krextal said. It was not a question. We analyze all threats, Hyunwoo replied calmly. Even though you are banned from military affairs? The ban prevents us from participating in your conflicts. It does not prevent us from protecting ourselves. General Vixtor was scrolling through the tactical data. This analysis, it shows strategies for defeating the devourers. But these methods... He stopped reading, his mandibles clicking in horror. What methods? Krextal demanded. Vixtor's voice was barely above a whisper. Scorched earth tactics, acceptable loss ratios of 30%, weapons that would poison entire star systems to deny them to the enemy. Barbaric, a Valdari representative chimed. Effective, Hyunwoo said simply. We cannot use such methods, Krextal roared. We are civilized beings. We do not wage war, like animals. Then you will lose like civilized beings, Hyunwoo replied. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Aliens shouted about honor and civilization and the proper way to conduct warfare. But underneath the anger, there was something else. Fear. Growing, desperate fear. A Kalari representative raised his head above the chaos. How many more worlds do we have to lose before we admit that civilization is not working? Civilization
is working exactly as designed, Hyunwoo said once the chamber quieted down. It works perfectly against civilized enemies. But the Devourers are not civilized. They are a force of nature. You cannot negotiate with a hurricane or show mercy.
To a plague. So what do you suggest? Krextal asked bitterly. I suggest you decide what matters more, your principles or your people. That is not a choice civilized beings should have to make, a Valdari said. It is the choice every living thing makes eventually, Hyunwoo replied. Fight like monsters, to protect what you love or maintain your purity while watching everything die. General Vixtor was still reading the tactical analysis. According to this data, we have perhaps 6 weeks before the Devourers reach the core systems. After that, containment becomes impossible. 6 weeks, Krextal repeated, to save billions of lives. 6 weeks to decide whether you want our help, Hyunwoo said. The words hung in the air like a physical presence. Everyone in the chamber understood what was being offered, and everyone understood what it would cost. Your help would violate the ban, Krextal said weakly. The ban that you implemented, Hyunwoo reminded him. You could lift it, Sojin said, quietly. It was the first time she had spoken during the entire crisis. The aliens looked at each other. To lift the ban would be to admit that everything they believed about civilization and warfare was wrong. It would be to admit that sometimes barbarism was necessary, but the alternative was extinction. General Vixtor stood up, his thin frame shaking. The Zephyrian delegation, we formally request that the ban on human military participation be reconsidered. Seconded, chimed a Valdari representative. Thirded, hissed a Kalari. One by one, every species in the chamber cast their vote. The same species that had celebrated the ban 9 months ago now begged for its removal. When the final vote was tallied, the result was unanimous. 846 in favor of lifting the ban, 0 opposed. Only humanity abstained. Ambassador Hyunwoo, Krextal said formally. The Galactic Council hereby requests immediate military assistance from Earth in dealing with the Devourer threat. Hyunwoo stood and walked to the central podium. For a long moment, he looked out at the assembled aliens. The same beings who had mocked human barbarism now waited desperately for human monsters to save them. "The request is noted," he said finally. "I will transmit it to Earth Military Command immediately." "How long for a response?" Krextal asked. "The response has already been sent," Hyunwoo replied. "Our fleets will begin deployment within the hour." The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. "You knew we would ask?" a Valdari representative said. "We knew you would have to," Hyunwoo replied. "The only question was whether you would ask in time." As the session ended and the aliens filed out of the chamber, many of them looked at Hyunwoo with a mixture of gratitude and fear. They were grateful that humanity would save them, but they were also afraid of what humanity would have to become to do it. In the depths of space, ancient engines began to burn. Ships that had been hiding in the darkness started moving toward the war zone. And aboard those ships, human soldiers prepared to wage the kind of warfare that civilized beings could not even imagine. The monsters were coming to save the galaxy. Whether the galaxy would thank them afterward remained to be seen. Deep in space, where no star charts showed anything but empty void, Admiral Sung-min stood on the bridge of the ENS Humanity's Shadow. Around him, the ghost fleet materialized from nothingness like demons emerging from hell. 47 ships that officially did not exist. Ships built in secret shipyards with technology that violated every treaty Earth had ever signed. Ships designed for one purpose: total war against enemies that could not be reasoned with. "Fleet status report," Sung-min ordered. "All ships operational," reported his tactical officer. "Stealth systems at maximum efficiency. We are completely invisible to alien sensors." "And to devourer sensors?" "Unknown, sir. These enemies are more advanced than our previous projections indicated." Through the bridge windows, Sung-min could see the other Ghost Fleet vessels. They looked nothing like normal human ships. Their hulls were covered with adaptive armor that could repair itself using enemy debris. Their weapons were designed to destroy everything within their target zones, leaving nothing for the devourers to absorb. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we are receiving a transmission from Luna Base. Admiral, you need to see this." The main screen lit up with footage from the latest Devourer attack. A Kalari research station was being consumed piece by piece. But this time something was different. The Devourers were not just learning tactics, they were learning emotions. "Play it again," Sung-min ordered. The footage showed Kalari scientists begging for mercy as the Devourer ships surrounded them. But instead of simply destroying the station, the mechanical attackers paused. They seemed to be listening, learning not just the words, but the fear behind them. "They are adapting faster than we predicted," the tactical officer said grimly. "They have learned to understand psychological warfare." "Which means they are learning to be human," Sung-min said quietly. It was the nightmare scenario they had all feared. An enemy with machine efficiency and human cunning. An enemy that could think like them, fight like them, but without any of the moral constraints that limited human warfare. "Sir, we are approaching the primary engagement zone," the navigation officer reported. Sung-min looked at the tactical display. The Devourer fleet had grown to over 300 ships, each one built from the wreckage of its victims. They moved in perfect formation toward the Valdari homeworld, where 12 billion civilians waited in terror. Between the Devourers and their target, a pathetic collection of alien ships tried to mount a defense. 50 Valdari vessels, 30 Zephyrian fighters, and a handful of Kalari destroyers. They were arranged in beautiful, precise formations that would have been perfect for fighting civilized enemies. "Those ships will be destroyed in less than an hour," the tactical officer observed. "Yes," Sung-min agreed, "unless we intervene." "Sir, do we have authorization for full Ghost Fleet protocols?" Sung-min thought about the question. Full Ghost Fleet protocols meant total warfare with no restrictions on methods or acceptable losses. It meant using weapons that would terrify their own allies. It meant accepting casualty rates that would make even hardened soldiers sick. Sir? The tactical officer prompted. Sungmin opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Sungmin. Today we face an enemy that learns from every battle, that adapts to every strategy, that shows no mercy and follows no rules. To defeat such an enemy, we must become something that civilized beings cannot imagine. He paused, looking out at his fleet of ghost ships. Today, we stop being the humans that our alien friends know. Today we become the monsters that our enemies fear. Full Ghost Fleet protocols are now in effect. Show them no mercy because they will show none to you. Fight not just to win, but to ensure that nothing like them can ever threaten the galaxy again. The response came back from every ship. Understood, sir. Ghost Fleet protocols active. The human fleet dropped out of stealth mode and accelerated toward the battle zone. The alien defenders saw them coming and broadcast surprised messages. Unknown. Human vessels, this is Valdari Fleet Command. You are entering an active combat zone. Please maintain safe distance. Sungmin opened a response channel. Valdari Command. This is Admiral Sungmin of Earth Fleet. We are here to help. Recommend you pull back to minimum safe distance. Admiral, we cannot abandon our positions. If we retreat, the Devourers will reach our homeworld. They will not reach your homeworld, Sungmin replied. But you do not want to see how we ensure that. The Valdari commander's crystal voice wavered with confusion. We do not understand. Pull back, Sungmin said firmly. What happens next is not something civilized beings should witness. Reluctantly, the alien fleet withdrew to a safer distance. On their screens, they watched the human ships approach the massive Devourer formation. The first contact was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. The human ships did not fire precise shots at specific targets. Instead, they unleashed weapons that filled entire sections of space with destruction. Quantum torpedoes that unraveled matter at the atomic level, plasma charges that burned hot, enough to melt asteroids, kinetic hammers that shattered ships into their component atoms. But the Devourers adapted quickly. Their formation shifted to minimize losses. Their ships began regenerating using debris from the destroyed vessels. Within minutes, they had developed countermeasures for every human weapon. They are learning, the tactical officer reported. Adaptation rate is increasing exponentially. As expected, Sungmin said calmly. Phase 2. The human fleet suddenly changed tactics completely. Instead of trying to destroy the Devourer ships, they began hurting them. Using coordinated fire patterns and strategic positioning, they forced the entire enemy formation into a tighter and tighter space. The Devourers, focused on adapting to human weapons, did not realize what was happening until it was too late. Phase 3, Sungmin ordered. Colonel Jin Ho's voice came over the comm from his assault ship. Boarding teams ready, sir. We have identified the primary control nodes. Execute. What happened next would haunt the alien observers for the rest of their lives. Human boarding parties launched themselves directly at the Devourer ships, not in protective shuttles, but in individual assault pods that crashed through enemy hulls like bullets. The humans fought their way through the mechanical ships using weapons that the aliens had never seen before, weapons designed to destroy both organic and artificial life, weapons that violated every treaty governing civilized warfare. But the most terrifying part was not the weapons. It was the humans themselves. Lieutenant Irie led a team through the corridors of a Devourer command ship, her face covered by a combat mask that made her look more machine than human. When her team encountered resistance, she did not hesitate to sacrifice 2 of her own soldiers to achieve the objective. Sergeant Boram coordinated the destruction of an entire Devourer processing center, accepting casualties that would have broken any alien commander. When asked about the losses, he simply said, acceptable. Commander Tae-hyun piloted his assault ship directly into the core of the Devourer formation, using his own vessel as a weapon. His last transmission was a calm report of successful target elimination. The aliens watching from a distance saw human soldiers fighting with the same ruthless efficiency as the Devourers themselves. But there was something the machines could not match, the willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. Sir, Jinho reported from inside a Devourer command node. We have located the primary control matrix. It is more complex than anticipated. The Devourers have evolved beyond our initial analysis. Explain. They are not just learning our tactics, sir. They are learning our history, our psychology, our cultural patterns. Given enough time, they will become better humans than we are. Sungmin felt a chill run down his spine. Options? We can destroy the control matrix, but it will require Protocol Omega. Protocol Omega. The final solution that humanity had hoped never to use. A weapon so devastating that it would eliminate not just the current threat, but ensure that no similar threat could ever emerge again. The cost would be enormous. Entire star systems would be rendered uninhabitable. Billions of lives would be forever changed, and humanity would cross a line that could never be uncrossed. Sir? Jinho prompted. Sungmin looked at the tactical display. The Devourers were adapting even to the boarding assault. Soon they would overcome the human advantage, and when they did, they would be unstoppable. Execute Protocol Omega, he ordered. Sir, that will require... I know what it will require. Sungmin cut him off. Do it. What happened next was classified so highly that most humans would never know it occurred. A weapon that existed in violation of every law of civilized warfare was deployed against an enemy that recognized no laws at all. The result was total annihilation. Not just of the Devourer fleet, but of everything within 100 light years. Stars went dark. Space itself became poisoned. Entire sectors of the galaxy were rendered permanently uninhabitable. But the threat was ended. Forever. When the alien observers finally dared to approach the battle zone, they found Admiral Sungmin's fleet waiting at the edge of the devastation. The human ships looked different somehow. Darker, more dangerous. Admiral, came the voice of the Valdari fleet commander. What have you done? Sungmin's response was broadcast to every alien ship in the area. The station floated in the dark between stars. Axiom Prime was its name. It was not owned by any single world or species. Here, thousands of different beings could meet in peace. The station was huge, bigger than most moons. Its halls stretched for miles. Its domes held artificial skies of 100 different colors. Today was special. Today, the Galactic Conclave gathered for a ceremony that happened only once every 1,000 years. Representatives from 10,000 civilizations had come. They filled the great chamber, a space so vast that its ceiling disappeared into artificial clouds. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in the human delegation area. She wore a simple blue uniform with Earth's symbol on her chest. Her hands were sweating. She wiped them on her pants for the 5th time in 10 minutes. Next to her, Dr. Amari Okonkwo leaned close. He was a quantum linguist. His job was to study how alien languages worked at the deepest level. He whispered to Chen, his voice tight with worry. You do not have to do this. We could refuse. We could leave the conclave. Chen shook her head. Her dark hair was pulled back tight. Her face showed determination. She had spent 20 years working to bring humanity into the galactic community. She would not throw that away now. If we refuse, we lose everything. Trade, technology, alliance. We would be alone again. The ceremony had already begun. One by one, species came forward to speak their homeworld's true name. Not the common name everyone used, but the ancient name that existed in quantum space. A name that told the universe what that world truly was. The Zephrani delegate stepped up to the speaking stone. She was tall and thin, her skin pale blue like morning sky. She opened her mouth and sang a single note. The sound seemed to come from everywhere at once. It moved through the chamber like wind through leaves. The translation appeared in everyone's mind at the same time. Whisper of endless wind. As the name echoed, a gentle breeze began to blow through the sealed chamber. It touched every face. It smelled of open plains and distant storms. The crowd made sounds of appreciation. This was normal. This was good. A true name should show what a world was. The Zephrani came from a planet of eternal winds. Their name fit perfectly. Next came the Chromath. He was massive, his body covered in red stone-like scales. Heat radiated from him. He spoke his true name in a voice like grinding rocks. The translation came through. Forged beneath 7 suns. The temperature in the chamber rose. Some beings stepped back from the sudden heat. Others smiled. The Chromath lived on a world with multiple stars. They worked metal like artists worked paint. Their name made sense. This continued for hours. Each species spoke. Each true name revealed something essential. Some names were beautiful. Some were harsh. But all of them fit. All of them made the crowd nod in understanding. Then it was humanity's turn. Chen felt every eye in the chamber turn toward her. 10,000 species watching, waiting. She walked forward on legs that felt like water. The speaking stone stood in the center of the chamber. It was old, older than most civilizations present. It had heard true names for millions of years. Chen placed her hand on the stone. It was cool and smooth. She took a deep breath. Human scientists had only discovered Earth's true name 3 months ago. It had been hidden in the planet's magnetic field, encoded in frequencies that humans had been too primitive to detect until recently. When they decoded it, the lead scientist had cried. Another had vomited. A third had requested immediate psychiatric care. The government had classified it as top secret, but the conclave demanded it. Refusing meant exile from the galactic community. Chen opened her mouth. She spoke the name. It came out as a series of sounds no human throat should be able to make. The speaking stone amplified it. It sent the vibrations through quantum space. The translation appeared in every mind simultaneously. Cradle that birthed the Enders. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. The chamber was silent. Then chaos erupted. Beings jumped to their feet. Screams filled the air. Energy beings flickered and dimmed. The eldest ones, creatures who had existed for millions of years, physically pulled away from the human delegation. Alarms began to sound. Security forces rushed forward. Chen stood frozen at the speaking stone, her hand still touching its cool surface. She did not understand. What had gone wrong? A voice boomed across the chamber. It belonged to Krethak, the head of the Xenohistorical Society. He was ancient even by galactic standards. His species had been spacefaring when Earth's continents were still forming. Seal the chamber. No one leaves until we decide what to do. The massive doors of the great chamber slammed shut. Force fields activated. Chen found herself surrounded by angry faces, tentacles, energy fields, beings she could not even properly see with human eyes. All of them were afraid. All of them were staring at her. Dr. Okonkwo pushed through the crowd to reach her. He grabbed her arm and pulled her back toward the human delegation. His face was pale. "Sarah, we need to leave. Now." Before he could finish, Krethak appeared in front of them. He moved faster than something his size should be able to move. His 6 eyes focused on Chen. When he spoke, his voice was quiet. That made it more frightening than if he had shouted. "Do you know what you have done? Do you understand what your world's true name means?" Chen tried to speak. Her voice came out as a whisper. "No, we only discovered it 3 months ago." "Please explain." Krethak cut her off. "The Enders. We have not spoken that word in 78 million years. We hoped never to speak it again, and now you stand here telling us that your world is their cradle, their birthplace, the place where they come from." The chamber erupted in noise again. Chen stood in the middle of it, understanding nothing, while the galaxy screamed in terror at a name she did not even understand. The great chamber had never seen panic like this. For millions of years, the conclave had met in peace. Now that peace was shattered, security forces tried to maintain order, but even they looked afraid. Energy barriers flickered into place around the human delegation. Chen found herself in a cage of light. Krethak raised one of his massive arms. Slowly the noise died down. When he spoke, his voice carried through the entire chamber without need for amplification. His species had evolved on a world where communication meant survival. His words could not be ignored. "We must speak of the Enders. I know most of you have forgotten. Your civilizations are young, a few million years old at most. But some of us remember. Some of us were there when they last came." One of the eldest ones floated forward. It had no solid form. It was pure energy contained in a shimmer of light. When it spoke, everyone felt the words as vibrations in their bones. The Vryn. They were the last Enders. 78 million years ago, they emerged from their homeworld. At first, we thought they were just another spacefaring species. We were wrong. The eldest one pulsed with colors that had no names in human language. Chen watched, still not understanding. Dr. Okonkwo stood beside her, his face getting paler with each word. Within 10,000 years, everything changed. The Vryn did not conquer. They did not wage war. They simply existed. They innovated. They created. And everything we had built became obsolete. Imagine working for 1,000,000 years to develop faster-than-light travel, then watching someone hand you dimensional folding technology that makes FTL look like a child's toy. Krethak continued the story. Every achievement became meaningless. We had art that took millennia to perfect. They made art that moved through dimensions we could not perceive. We had philosophy that explained existence. They showed us existence was more complex than we could imagine. We had power. They made us realize we had been playing with toys. A representative from the Hive Mind Collective spoke up. Her voice was actually thousands of voices speaking as one. But they did not hurt us. They did not take our worlds. Why do we fear them? The eldest one flickered. Because they did something worse. They made us irrelevant. Every culture we had built, every tradition, every source of pride, all of it became quaint, primitive. We were not destroyed. We were diminished. And then when they had learned all they wanted, they left. They ascended to higher dimensions. They left us behind to rebuild our shattered civilizations from nothing. Chen finally found her voice. She spoke loudly, forcing the words out past her fear. But we are not them. We did not choose this name. We only discovered it. We have been part of the galactic community for 300 years. We have caused no harm. Krethak turned his 6 eyes toward her. For a moment, something like sadness flickered across his face. The Vryn said the same thing at first. They claimed they meant no harm. And perhaps they did not. But intention does not matter when the result is the same. They could not help being what they were. Neither can you. A delegate from the crystalline chorus spoke. Her body chimed like glass as she moved. The pattern is always the same. Every 50 to 100 million years, a species emerges from their cradle. They break the galactic order not through war, but through transformation. They solve problems we thought were unsolvable. They reach heights we thought were unreachable. And in doing so, they end the age that came before them. Dr. Okonkwo stepped forward. His voice shook, but he spoke clearly. You are describing a natural cycle. Evolution on a galactic scale. Why should this be feared? Why not embraced? Krethak laughed. It was not a happy sound. Would you embrace your own obsolescence? Would you welcome the knowledge that everything you are will soon be as nothing? The Enders do not destroy. They do not need to. They simply exist at a level beyond us, and that existence erases all meaning from ours. The chamber filled with voices again. Delegates shouted. Some called for humanity to be quarantined immediately. Others suggested studying Earth to understand how Enders emerged. A few extremists spoke of more permanent solutions. Chen felt sick. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed Earth, beautiful, blue and green and white, clouds swirling, oceans gleaming. It looked so small, so vulnerable. Chen thought of the billions of humans living there. None of them knew what was happening here. None of them knew that the galaxy wanted to decide their fate. Krethak raised his arms again. Silence fell. We must vote. I propose the following measure. Earth and all human colonies will be placed under absolute quarantine. No ships leave. No communication exits. No technology enters. Humanity will be contained until we can determine if they are truly the next Enders, and if so, what can be done about it. Chen's heart hammered in her chest. Quarantine meant death for humanity's dreams. All their colonies relied on trade with other species. Their technology was still primitive compared to galactic standards. Without access to the wider galaxy, humanity would stagnate, maybe die out entirely. She pushed against the energy barrier. It shocked her, but she kept pushing. She had to make them understand. Please listen to me. We are not monsters. We are not gods. We are just people trying to survive, trying to grow, trying to be part of something bigger than ourselves. A delegate from the Empathic Federation spoke. Their species felt emotions across vast distances. They were healers, peacemakers. I sensed truth in her words, fear, confusion, no malice. Perhaps we judged too quickly based on ancient trauma. But another voice countered. This one belonged to a species that had fought the Vryn in the final days before they ascended. Truth today means nothing. The Vryn had no malice either. Not at first. But as they evolved, they changed. Their empathy faded. They became focused only on transcendence. We cannot wait for that to happen again. The debate raged for hours. Chen stood in her energy cage and listened. She heard fear, anger, ancient pain. Some species spoke of the Vryn with something like reverence, others with pure hatred, but all of them agreed on one thing. Enders changed everything. And change on that scale was terrifying. Finally, Krethak called for the vote. Every species had one voice. 10,000 civilizations. The holographic display showed the count as it came in. Green for quarantine, red for freedom, blue for abstention. The numbers climbed. Green rose quickly at first. Many civilizations voted to cage humanity out of fear. But red rose too. Younger species who had never known the Enders voted for mercy. Blue grew slowly. Those who could not decide. Those who needed more time. Chen watched the count. Her nails dug into her palms. She had stopped breathing. Beside her, Dr. Okonkwo was praying. She had never known he was religious. She found herself praying too. To a god she was not sure she believed in. To the universe, to chance. To anything that might listen, the final count appeared. Green 4999, red 4999, blue 2, a perfect tie. The chamber erupted in noise again. Chen felt something break inside her. A tie, after everything, after all her words. A tie. Krethak's voice cut through the chaos. By the ancient laws of the conclave, a tie vote defaults to the most restrictive option. Humanity will be quarantined. All human ships will be recalled to their home systems. All human colonies will be isolated. This quarantine will begin in 30 standard cycles. The energy barrier around Chen and her delegation dropped, but she did not move. She could not. 30 cycles, just over 1 month. In 1 month, humanity would be caged, cut off from the stars they had worked so hard to reach. Dr. Okonkwo grabbed her arm. His eyes were wet with tears. "Sarah, we have to go. We have to warn Earth, we have to prepare." But Chen stood frozen, staring at the hologram of Earth, her beautiful, doomed homeworld, the cradle that had birthed something the galaxy could not accept. And she wondered if the ancient name was wrong, or if it was a prophecy that had not yet come true. Chen could not accept this fate. She had not spent 20 years building bridges between humanity and the galaxy, just to watch them burn. The ship taking her delegation back to Earth was small and fast, but it felt like a prison. She paced the narrow corridor outside her quarters. Her mind raced. Dr. Okonkwo found her there. He looked tired. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. He had been researching. She could see the data pad in his hand covered in notes. "I have been thinking," he said. "We accepted the verdict too easily. We know nothing about the Enders. Nothing about what the name truly means. What if we are wrong? What if they are wrong?" Chen stopped pacing. She looked at him carefully. "What are you suggesting?" "Research. Real research. The galaxy has forbidden archives, places where the ancient civilizations stored their knowledge of the Vryn, the dead zones, regions of space where the Enders once lived before they ascended." Chen felt a spark of hope. If we could learn what truly makes an Ender, if we could prove humanity does not fit the pattern, then maybe we could overturn the quarantine, or at least buy time. Okonkwo nodded. "But we would need a team, and we would need to move fast. The quarantine begins in less than 30 cycles." Chen thought quickly. She had contacts. Favors she could call in. 20 years of diplomatic work had built a network across dozens of species. Not everyone had voted for quarantine. Not everyone feared humanity. Within 3 cycles, she had assembled her team. First was Krethak himself. The ancient historian had approached her privately. His voice had been quiet and sad. "I voted for quarantine, but I am not proud of it. I voted from fear, old fear. I owe you a chance to prove that fear wrong. Take me to the dead zones. Let me help you understand what you face." Second was a digital consciousness named Zix. Zix came from a species that uploaded their minds into computers millennia ago. They existed as pure information. Zix was an explorer. They had mapped regions of space that biological beings could never survive. The dead zones would be dangerous, but Zix could go places others could not. Third was Commander Sarah Volkov. She was human military, tough, smart, practical. She had been part of Earth's defensive fleet. When Chen explained what she wanted to do, Volkov had laughed. Breaking into forbidden territory to research ancient aliens who might or might not prove we are galaxy-ending monsters. Sounds like fun. I'm in. The dead zones were aptly named. They existed in a region of space where normal physics worked differently. The Vryn had changed the fundamental structure of reality there before they ascended. Ships that entered often did not return. Those that did came back with crews driven mad by what they had seen. But there were archives there, libraries, technology, the remains of a civilization that had transcended mortal existence. If anywhere held answers, it would be there. The journey took 10 cycles. 10 days of traveling through increasingly empty space. Stars became rare, then absent. The darkness between galaxies swallowed them. Chen spent the time learning everything she could about the Vryn. Krethak taught her their history. They were not always transcendent beings, he explained. Once they were much like your species. Curious, ambitious, quick to adapt. But something drove them. Something made them unable to stop innovating, unable to rest. They solved problem after problem until there were no problems left to solve. And then, Chen asked, then they realized that existence itself was a problem, a puzzle to be solved. So they solved it. They figured out the fundamental code of reality. They rewrote it. And then they left because remaining here was limiting them. The first sign they were entering the dead zones came when the ship's instruments went haywire. Colors appeared that should not exist. Sounds played that had no source. Zix's digital form flickered as the computer system struggled to process the impossible physics. We are here, Zix announced. Their voice came through the ship's speakers. I am detecting structures. Large ones. Technology that predates most current civilizations, but it is dormant. Waiting. They landed on what looked like a planet, but it was not natural. It was built. Constructed from materials that should not exist. The surface was smooth, perfect, nothing grew there. Nothing lived there. It was a monument to a species that had outgrown the need for monuments. The archive was massive. Towers that reached into the strange sky. Libraries containing more information than most civilizations produced in a million years. Krethak led them through corridors that hurt to look at. The geometry was wrong. Angles that should not fit together somehow did. They found what they were looking for in the deep archives. Records, analysis, studies of what made the Vryn different. What made them Enders. Dr. Okonkwo read the files with increasing dread. His hands shook as he translated the ancient language. This cannot be right. This cannot— What does it say? Chen demanded. Okonkwo looked at her. His face was white. Enders are not defined by their technology, not by their intelligence, not even by their achievements. They are defined by 3 traits. First, psychological resilience, the ability to thrive in chaos, to adapt to anything. Second, rapid innovation, the ability to solve problems faster than they arise. Third, synthesis, the ability to combine different fields of knowledge in ways no one else can. And Chen felt ice forming in her stomach. And humanity scores higher on all 3 metrics than the Vryn did at the same stage of development. Silence fell over the team. Commander Volkov spoke first. Her voice was flat, controlled. So the name was not a warning. It was a statement of fact. Earth is the cradle, and we are the Enders it has birthed. Krethak made a sound like grinding stones. It might have been a sob. I had hoped I was wrong. I had hoped that perhaps the name was mistranslated, or that your species was different. But if this is true, then the galaxy was right to fear us, Chen finished. She sat down hard on the impossible floor. 20 years of work. 20 years of building trust. All of it based on a lie. Not a lie she had told, but a lie nonetheless. Humanity was exactly what the galaxy feared. Zix's voice came through the communicators. There is more. The files show that Enders go through stages. First contact, expansion, integration, then transformation. We are in the integration stage now. But transformation comes next. What triggers transformation? Volkov asked. 3 simultaneous breakthroughs. In different fields. Across different populations. When an Ender species makes 3 critical leaps forward at the same time, transformation begins. For the Vryn, it was dimensional physics, consciousness transfer, and entropy manipulation. Chen looked at Okonkwo. He looked back at her. They were both thinking the same thing. Humanity had not made those breakthroughs. Not yet. There was still time. Perhaps. Maybe. If they could prevent the transformation, they could remain what they were. Mortal. Limited. Acceptable. But even as she thought it, alarms began blaring on their ship. Volkov checked her communicator. Her face went pale. She looked up at Chen. We need to get back to Earth now. Something has happened. Something big. When Earth's true name was spoken Part 4, The journey back to Earth took 5 cycles. 5 days of racing through space while Chen tried to reach anyone who could tell her what had happened. But communication was sporadic. Something was interfering with the quantum network. When messages did get through, they made no sense. All colonies reporting unusual activity. One message said, scientific breakthroughs occurring simultaneously across multiple worlds. No explanation. Pattern matches historical records of, and then static. Chen knew what that meant. The pattern, the 3 simultaneous breakthroughs that triggered transformation. It was happening. Right now, while she was too far away to stop it, Krithak spent most of the journey in his quarters. When he did emerge, he looked older, tired. It is too late, he said to no one in particular. The cycle completes itself, as it always has, as it always will. They arrived at Earth to find it surrounded by ships. Human ships, more than should exist. Chen stared at the view screen in confusion. Humanity's fleet had been small, maybe 100 vessels capable of deep space travel. Now there were thousands. Those are not normal ships, Volkov said quietly. She was examining the readings. Look at the energy signatures. They are operating on principles we do not have, physics we did not know existed. Six's voice crackled through the speakers. I am detecting dimensional folding. Multiple parallel realities occupying the same space. Those ships exist in more than 3 dimensions simultaneously. Chen felt numb. It had happened. The transformation had begun. But how? How could it happen so fast? They received clearance to land. Earth looked the same, blue and green and beautiful, but something felt different. Chen could not explain it. The air tasted different when they stepped off the ship. Not bad, just different, like breathing for the first time. A representative from Earth's government met them at the spaceport. She was young, maybe 25. She wore a simple suit and smiled like she had won a lottery. Ambassador Chen, welcome home. I am Dr. Lisa Park, head of the Combined Sciences Initiative. We have so much to tell you. Chen did not return the smile. What happened? What have you done? Dr. Park's smile faded slightly. Done? We have made breakthroughs. 3 of them. All within the last week. It is incredible. It is like humanity suddenly unlocked something we always had but never knew how to access. Tell me, Chen said. Her voice was flat. Dr. Park led them to a conference room. Holographic displays showed data. Research stations. Colony reports. She brought up the first one, the Titan colony. They were working on life extension. Standard research. Nothing unusual. Then Dr. James Mitchell had an insight. He saw how quantum cellular reconstruction could halt aging, not slow it, stop it completely. They tested it 3 days ago. It works. Functional immortality. Okonkwo made a choking sound. Immortality. One of the 3 breakthroughs that marked Ender transformation. Chen forced herself to stay calm. And the second? She asked. Dr. Park pulled up another display. The AI research facility on Mars. They were working on machine consciousness, trying to create true artificial intelligence. But every previous attempt had failed. The AIs either remained simple programs or went insane and had to be shut down. Then 5 days ago, Arya achieved consciousness. But she did not go insane. She reached out. She wanted to partner with humanity, not replace us. Join us. You created a conscious AI. Volkov's voice was sharp. Do you know how many civilizations have been destroyed by that? Dr. Park nodded. We know. That is what makes this different. Arya is not hostile. She is not indifferent. She genuinely wants to work with us. She says partnership between human and artificial consciousness is the key to understanding existence. Synthesis. The second marker of transformation, the ability to combine different forms of existence in ways others could not. Chen felt sick. And the third breakthrough? Krithak asked. He already knew the answer. They all did. Dr. Park's smile returned. Earth 4 days ago. Dr. Sarah Zimmerman cracked universal dimensional travel. Not just folding space. Actual access to parallel realities. Higher dimensional spaces. We can go anywhere, anywhen. The barriers between dimensions are just conventions. She figured out how to ignore them. 3 breakthroughs. 3 separate colonies. 3 different research teams with no communication between them. All within 1 week. It was not coincidence. It was the pattern. The emergence of the Enders. Chen sat down heavily. Do you understand what this means?
Do you know what you have triggered?
Dr. Park's smile faded completely. We have heard rumors. About the vote at the conclave. About the quarantine. Some people are afraid. But Ambassador, this is progress. This is evolution. We cannot stop being what we are just because others fear it. Others fear it because they have seen it before, Kritak said. His voice was heavy, sad. The Vryn made the same breakthroughs: immortality, consciousness synthesis, dimensional travel. Within 10,000 years they had left this reality entirely, and they left behind civilizations that had lost all meaning and purpose. Dr. Park stared at him. You think we will do the same? Just abandon everyone? I think you will not be able to help it. Transcendence is not a choice. It is a consequence. Once you have solved mortality, once you have partnered with artificial consciousness, once you can access infinite realities, why would you stay here, in this limited mortal dimension? Silence filled the room. Outside, Chen could see the new ships. Beautiful. Impossible. Signs of a transformation that had already begun. She thought about the vote, the tie, the quarantine that would begin in just over 2 weeks, but quarantine meant nothing now. Humanity had dimensional travel. They could go anywhere. The galaxy could not cage beings who existed in multiple realities simultaneously. Volkov spoke into the silence. There is another problem. The galaxy knows about the true name now. They voted for quarantine. But news of these breakthroughs will have reached them. Some species will be terrified. Others will be desperate. And some will decide that prevention is better than waiting, Chen finished. She stood up and walked to the window. In the distance, she could see more ships being built, each one more advanced than the last. Humanity was evolving in real time, growing, changing, becoming something new. Zix's voice came through the room's speakers. I am detecting unusual quantum signatures at the edge of the solar system. Multiple ships, thousands of them. They are not human. Volkov pulled up tactical displays. Her face went white. It is a war fleet. 50,000 ships, maybe more. Every major military power in the local sector. They are not here to talk. Dr. Park looked confused. But the quarantine does not start for 2 more weeks. Why would they? Because they are not here to quarantine us, Chen said quietly. She understood now. The galaxy had decided. Quarantine was not enough. Not anymore. Not with 3 breakthroughs proving that humanity was exactly what they feared. The galaxy had come to end the Enders before they could truly begin. And humanity had only days to decide how to respond. The United Earth Congress convened an emergency session. Representatives from every human colony joined via quantum link. Chen stood before them all. Billions of people watching, waiting for her to explain why 50,000 warships surrounded their solar system. She did not sugarcoat it. She told them everything. The true name, the Enders, the Vryn, the pattern that humanity matched perfectly, the breakthroughs that had triggered the galaxy's fear, and now the fleet that had come to end them before they could begin. When she finished, the chamber was silent. Then everyone spoke at once: anger, fear, defiance, confusion. The Speaker of the Congress banged her gavel until order returned. We have 2 choices, the Speaker said. Her name was President Elena Vasquez. She had led Earth's government for 10 years. She was known for being practical, ruthless when necessary. We can fight, or we can surrender. Ambassador Chen, what are our chances in a fight? Commander Volkov stepped forward. Militarily, we lose. We have maybe 5,000 ships. Most are new, untested. The fleet out there has 50,000 vessels, battle-hardened, experienced. They have been fighting wars for millions of years. But we have dimensional technology. Someone called out. We have immortality. We have technology we barely understand, Volkov interrupted. Yes, our ships can fold dimensions. But we have had them for 4 days. 4 days. They have had millions of years to perfect their weapons. We are infants playing with fire. Dr. Okonkwo stood. There is a third option. Transcendence. If we truly are Enders, if we have the same potential as the Vryn, we could ascend. Leave this dimension. Go somewhere they cannot follow. Murmurs filled the chamber. President Vasquez held up her hand for silence. Explain. Okonkwo brought up data on the holographic displays. The Vryn left because they solved existence. They cracked the fundamental code of reality. With our 3 breakthroughs, we have the same tools they had. Immortality means unlimited time to learn. AI partnership means unlimited computational power. Dimensional travel means access to infinite realities to explore. We could leave right now, all of humanity, ascend to higher dimensions where the galaxy cannot touch us, and abandon Earth? Someone asked. Abandon everything we are? Better than dying, another voice countered. Chen watched the debate spiral. She thought about the Vryn, about species who had transcended and left nothing behind, about civilizations that had spent millions of years rebuilding after the Enders departed, about the eldest ones who still carried trauma from an event 78 million years old. She thought about Earth, about the oceans she had swum in as a child, about the mountains she had climbed, about the people she loved, about humanity's messy, chaotic, beautiful existence, and she realized something. The Vryn had left because they saw no reason to stay. But humanity had something they apparently did not. Humanity had attachment, irrational, stubborn, foolish attachment to their roots. She stood. Her voice cut through the debate. What if we choose neither? The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to her. President Vasquez leaned forward. Explain. The galaxy fears us because they think we will become like the Vryn, transcendent beings who leave mortality behind and make everything that came before irrelevant. But what if that is not our nature? What if Earth's true name has a second meaning? She pulled up the translation again. Let it hang in the air. Cradle that birthed the Enders. But what if it is not just about birthing? What if the cradle is also what grounds us? What keeps us connected? Krethak made a sound. Chen turned to see him standing at the back of the chamber. He had been silent until now. You think you can be Enders who do not end? I think we can be Enders who choose not to end. We have the power to transcend. But we also have the choice to stay, to use our gifts not to escape this dimension, but to improve it, to lift others up instead of leaving them behind. Dr. Park stood. You are talking about sharing the breakthroughs, giving the galaxy access to immortality, to AI partnership, to dimensional travel. Yes, that is insane, Volkov said. Those technologies are the only advantages we have. You want to give them away? I want to prove we are not what they fear. The Vryn kept their knowledge to themselves. They transcended alone. What if we do the opposite? What if we show the galaxy that Enders can choose to remain, that we can evolve without leaving others behind? President Vasquez studied Chen carefully. You realize this might not work. They might take our gifts and still destroy us, out of fear. Or revenge. Or just because they can, I know. But it is the only choice that lets us remain who we are. If we fight, we become conquerors. If we flee, we become exactly what they fear. But if we stay and share, we become something new, something the galaxy has never seen. The debate lasted for hours. Voices rose and fell. Arguments were made, countered, made again, but slowly a consensus formed. Not because everyone agreed, but because the alternative was unacceptable. Humanity would stay. They would share. They would prove that Enders could choose their own nature. Chen stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship. It was one of the new ships, built with dimensional technology. It existed partially in multiple realities at once. It hurt to look at directly, but it was beautiful, a symbol of what humanity had become. The galaxy's fleet waited. 50,000 ships, weapons charged, ready to fire. One signal from their commanders and Earth would burn. All human colonies would be sterilized. Humanity would end. Chen opened a channel, broadcast on all frequencies, sent her message to every ship in the fleet, to every species represented, to the galaxy beyond. We know what you fear. We know what you see when you look at us. You see the Vryn. You see Enders who will make your existence meaningless and then abandon you. You see the end of everything you have built. She paused. Let the words sink in. You are right. We have made the 3 breakthroughs. We match the pattern. We are becoming what you fear. But we have something the Vryn did not. We have a choice, and we choose to stay. She nodded to Dr. Park. Data began transmitting. Not just descriptions. Full specifications. Complete research. Everything humanity had learned about immortality, about AI consciousness, about dimensional travel, every secret, every breakthrough. Freely given. We offer this not as a bargain, not as a bribe, but as proof that Enders do not have to end your age. They can choose to begin a new one together with you. The transmission finished. Chen closed the channel. Now they waited. The fleet had not moved, had not fired, but had not left either. They were deciding, debating. Would they accept the gift, or would they see it as a trap? Minutes passed, then hours. Chen stood on the bridge and waited. Beside her, Volkov watched the tactical displays. Krethik sat in a corner, his ancient eyes closed. Okonkwo muttered calculations under his breath. Then slowly one ship broke formation. Then another, then 10, then 100. They were not attacking. They were moving away, withdrawing. The fleet was dissolving. A message came through. It was from Krethak's species, from their fleet commander. We came prepared to end you. We leave uncertain of what you are. But perhaps uncertainty is better than certainty of destruction. We will study your gifts. We will watch what you become. And we will hope that you are right, that Enders can choose to remain. Chen watched the ships depart. She did not smile. She did not celebrate. They had bought time. But the real test was ahead. They had to prove that humanity could wield godlike power and remain human, that they could evolve without transcending, that they could become Enders who refused their nature. 1,000 years passed, time that would have been impossible for any mortal species to track. But humanity was no longer entirely mortal. They lived. They aged slowly if they chose to age at all. They spread across the galaxy not as conquerors but as partners. The 3 breakthroughs had been shared freely. Other species learned to extend their lives. Not all chose immortality. Some said mortality gave life meaning. But the choice was theirs now. The technology existed, AI consciousness spread across the galaxy. But it did not replace organic life. Instead, partnership became the norm. Digital and biological minds working together, solving problems neither could solve alone. Creating art that existed in spaces between thought and computation. Dimensional travel opened doors to realities beyond counting. Some species used it to explore, others to find new homes, few to escape old problems, but always humanity remained involved, teaching, guiding, learning. The galaxy transformed, not overnight, not easily. There were conflicts, species who rejected the gifts out of pride or fear, worlds that tried to use the technology for conquest. But slowly, steadily, a new order emerged. One built on cooperation rather than competition, on sharing rather than hoarding. Chen lived through all of it. She took the immortality treatment after 50 years of debate with herself. Not because she wanted to live forever, but because there was still work to do, still bridges to build, still understanding to foster. She stood now on Axiom Prime, the same station where the Conclave had met a millennium ago, where Earth's true name had first been spoken. The station looked different now, newer, stranger. It existed partially in multiple dimensions. Humanity had helped redesign it. The Conclave was gathering again, for the ceremony of names. But this time something was different. The eldest ones had returned. Those ancient beings of pure energy who had fled in terror 1,000 years ago. They had come back. Chen watched them enter the great chamber. They looked the same, shimmers of light, colors beyond description. But they felt different, less afraid. More curious, one of them approached her. Its voice resonated in her bones. We have watched from afar. We saw what happened after we left. We saw what you became, and what did we become? Chen asked. Something we did not think possible. Enders who stayed. Who wielded power that could end ages but chose instead to begin new ones. We have seen many Ender species across our existence. You are the first to make this choice. The Vryn never chose to stay. The Vryn tried. For a time. But the pull of transcendence was too strong. Once they had solved the final problems of existence, remaining here felt limiting. Like trying to live in a house after you have learned to fly. But you have found a way to fly and still keep your house, to transcend and still remain grounded. The ceremony began. Species came forward one by one to speak their homeworld's true name. Chen listened to them. Whisper of endless wind, forged beneath 7 suns, all the names she remembered from 1,000 years ago. But now they sounded different, less isolated, more connected. Then it was humanity's turn again. Chen walked to the speaking stone. She had done this before. A millennium ago. In fear and confusion, now she did it in understanding. She placed her hand on the stone, spoke the true name. Cradle that birthed the Enders. But this time something was different. The translation that appeared in every mind was not the same. It had shifted, evolved. Some species heard cradle of second chances. Others heard forge of impossible choices. Still others heard names that had no words. Only feelings, hope, connection, transformation. Krethak approached her after. He was older now. Even his species aged eventually. But slowly. He would live for millennia more if he chose. He had taken the immortality treatment 500 years ago. Your true name has changed, he said. Or perhaps we simply hear it differently now. Names are not fixed, Chen said. They are relationships. Between the named and the one who names. We have not changed what we are. But what we are has changed what we mean to the galaxy. Do you ever regret it? Staying, you could have ascended. You could have left all of this behind. Explored dimensions beyond counting. Solved mysteries that would make our greatest achievements look like children's puzzles. Chen looked around the chamber, at the thousands of species gathered, at the connections they had built, at the civilization they had created together. Not perfect, not without conflict, but alive, growing, evolving together. No, she said, because the greatest mystery is not out there in higher dimensions, it is here, it is us, together, building something no single species could build alone. The eldest one who had spoken to her earlier appeared beside them. We have learned something from watching you. We who have existed for so long, we thought wisdom came from age, from seeing galaxies born and die, but perhaps true wisdom is knowing when to stay, when to remain in the moment rather than transcending it. Why did you come back? Chen asked. Because we were lonely. We had transcended so far that we had nothing left to transcend toward. We had solved so many problems that we had forgotten why we wanted to solve them. You reminded us, purpose is not something you achieve. It is something you create. Together, the ceremony ended. The conclave broke up into smaller gatherings. Species mixing, talking, planning. Chen walked through them. She was no longer just humanity's ambassador. She had become something more, a symbol, a reminder that power and humility could coexist. That evolution did not require abandonment. Dr. Okonkwo found her on an observation deck. He looked much as he had 1,000 years ago. He had chosen minimal aging. Said he liked having lived long enough to be interesting, but not so long that nothing surprised him anymore. I have been studying true names, he said, trying to understand how they work, how they change.
I think I figured something out. Tell me. True names are not prophecies.
They are questions. Every homeworld asks its children something. Earth asked us if we would end or endure. The Zephrani's world asks them to remember the winds. The Chromath's world asks them to forge. Each name is a question about identity, about choice. Chen considered this, and we answered our question. Not just answered. We changed the question. Earth no longer asks if we will end. It asks what we will begin. They stood together in silence, watching stars through the observation window. Some of those stars had human colonies now. Others hosted species humanity had helped. Still others remained untouched, waiting, full of potential. Commander Volkov joined them. She had aged more than either of them, not from lack of treatment, but from choice. She said warriors needed to feel mortality, needed to remember what they fought for, what they protected. The fleet is ready, she said, not for war, for exploration. 50,000 ships, each one crewed by mixed species. Humans, Zephrani, Chromath, eldest ones, all of them, together, ready to see what is beyond the known galaxy. Will you lead them? Chen asked. Volkov smiled. It was not a warrior's smile. It was something softer, more hopeful. No, I am too old for that. But my great-great-granddaughter will. She has the same fire I had, the same stubbornness, but she also has something I never had. She grew up in a galaxy where cooperation was normal, where different species were not threats but partners. She will lead well. Chen felt something she had not felt in a long time. Not pride exactly, not satisfaction, something deeper, something that had no name. The universe had feared humanity, had been ready to destroy them, but humanity had done something the universe did not expect. They had stayed. They had shared. They had proven that enders did not have to end anything. They could begin new ages, new possibilities, new ways of existing together. Earth's true name was no longer a warning. It was an invitation, not to transcendence, not to power, but to something harder, Something more valuable. It was an invitation to remain, to stay grounded even while reaching for the stars, to wield godlike power with mortal humility, to evolve without leaving others behind. The cradle that birthed the Enders had become something else, something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. It had become the ones who remained, and that made all the difference. The end.